So the second line we have is the line of consciousness, the ascendant-descendant line. It's the horizon. So we're seeing it as a line because we see where that line cuts that line, just as the zenith cuts through. It's a line going from the North Pole over right overhead to cut the equator, cut the ecliptic and go down to the equator and go down. So that's this line. In the southern hemisphere, you're looking south, you're looking north, and it's the South Pole going over your head up to the equator. So it's just reverses, but it's still the highest point in the sky. And the ascendant, we see it as this line. Really, it's best to imagine it as a tabletop, as a circular tabletop. The whole thing is a round circle, flat, a whole line of consciousness, the whole horizon. You're looking in every direction. It's the horizon in every direction. Now in the prairies, it's really alive because you see the horizon in all directions. In the mountains, you don't. So people live in the prairies, they would have trouble living in the Rockies. People in the Rockies would really have a big adjustment to see the horizon in all directions. So huge difference, a difference of 2 or 3 hours daylight in a day, just be living in the mountains or living in the prairies. But still the cycle of what's above and what's below the line. So my point is, it's a circle, it's a tabletop. And the whole hemisphere, whole half a dome of the heavens is above it, and a half a dome is below it. That's where we have, I better just check to make sure you're seeing this. Okay, so these astronomy drawings, here we go. We'll put it like this. Yeah, get back a little bit. Okay, so here we would have on this pole, they're marked on red, and the red line, oops, right. I'll just line it so it's equator. The red line now is lined up to be the equator. The blue line that goes around the globe is the zodiac. Okay, this line, the green beam going right down, would be like the midheaven. And it would divide, the houses would be divided around that. But because, if we look at, turn it sideways, the house cusps would come in, oops, here, they would come every 2 hours as it's going around the Earth, as the Earth turns, but it's cutting the ecliptic at different angles. So the houses are different sizes because of this. But this is just an idea there, so you can see the midheaven cutting the sky and where it would cut in the zodiac. Okay, so this whole hemisphere above is what we can see. It's the world we see. It's where we're awake to. We look around, we see buildings, we see skies, we see trees, we see the horizon. That whole thing is above the horizon. We see it as the ascendant and descendant because where that horizon cuts, where the half of the sky that's rising, there's a point that's cutting that horizon, where the zodiac cuts that horizon, and that's our rising sign. And on the opposite side, 180 degrees away, there's a part of the zodiac that's setting and going below the horizon, below this tabletop, below this whole plane. And so the zodiac is just a degree on each side. Really, it's a whole hemisphere above and a whole hemisphere below. What's above, we have a conscious relationship. We can see, we can be objective about it, we can quantify it, we can see it, we can agree on it. What's below the horizon, we can't see. The energy could be filtering through the earth, or we don't see it. It's not conscious yet, but it's still there. It's subliminal, it's within. So these two differences make the difference between the objective functional reality that we live, relate, have friends, have marriages, create with and build jobs with, and the below the horizon is our personal home, our feelings, our expression, our creativity, our health, our identity, all the subjective elements which can be affected by the insight, the subjective can affect the objective and vice versa. They both influence each other in its own phases and its own cycles. But there's a distinct difference between who we are and who I am. So as soon as we're at a party and something goes bad, I can pull away. Or if I say something wrong and it affects somebody negatively, oh my goodness, a whole mess comes up and everything gets messed up out there objectively. I know it's happening, but I don't know how to deal with it. I better just pull away or pull into myself. Or I have to apologize and we get humbled or whatever. So the me within is that part below the horizon. This part below the horizon is your first 6 houses: identity, resources, talents, expression, security, foundations, motivation, your performance, your creativity, and your skills and your health. These are all the personal things, whereas marriage, shared resources, philosophy, principles, religion, status, friends, consciousness, these are all social functional things that we go out and do. So everybody has this balance of being home alone when they sleep inside themselves and going out into the world in one way or another, going out or not going out, but we're people born below the horizon, their sons below the horizon are more inclined to be subjective and live in their own world, and they don't have a strong relationship to what's above. Whereas people born in the daylight hours, they have a natural relationship to what's above and have more struggle trying to be within themselves. It's not that they can't be. Everybody has these two halves. They're just accentuated slightly differently according to which planets, whether the sun's above or below, moon's above, below each planet. First it's the sun, moon, sun basically, then the moon, then the planets. They keep accentuating how the energy is working above or below. This is how you get into the unique individual interpretation. It's how we're connected. It's the essence of astrology. We're connected to life like this. It's the miracle of God's world, if you want to talk like that. In the very fabric of life, there's meaning and relevance. It's not just randomly there in some chaotic outburst. It's a theory some people have, but really, we're at the opposite end of that randomness. We're looking at really music and rhythms and patterns and incredible order, divine order. Okay. So let me just, so that's the above below. So the line, the ascendant descent line of consciousness, because you're conscious of your identity, conscious of yourself and what you're projecting, and conscious of how other people react to you and what you take back in. So again, this is the same drawing with just the I Ching, with the daylight greater, the sun's above, instead in the houses, it's in the signs is daylight greater, nighttime greater. In the houses, it's above the horizon or below. So the light is above the horizon, and below is within. It's below the dark is below. So we had the rising above, below, rising, setting, rising, setting. This is the line of consciousness. Yeah, conscious of the difference between your subjective being and the outer world, where I'm coming from, and where I'm going to, what world I'm stuck in, and how it's happening, and why is it happening to me. So all life is a mixture of consciousness and power. So here's a little more clarity around it. We have the line of consciousness above, below, within, without. Outside is the above, the objective functional reality where we function, and the subjective being. You don't have to do anything to be yourself. You can be in a coma on a bed and non-functional to the outside world completely, but you still could be alive in your subjective being. Oh. So these are, I mean, if you're going to try and look at issues of life, death, these things, and make decisions, but it's good to look really at what's going on, what's happening. The ascendant is conscious of self, your self-identity, conscious of yourself. This is the point of the ascendant. The descendant is conscious of being related to others. Hi, here I am. What do you mean you don't want me? What do you mean I don't fit in? What do you mean I have to be in the back of the row? What do you mean? How come I'm not? Oh, yes, you want me? Okay, you put me on top. Oh, this is wonderful. I'm so great to be recognized. Oh, hi, honey. Yeah, great. Hi, honey. What's wrong? Like, it's where we take things in. It's how we respond to others. So what we put out, when you see somebody, you're seeing what they put out, but really how we measure someone is how they respond to us. Oh, so if you're too strong on putting out, you don't see, like me, I'm strong on putting out. I have to work really hard to be able to respond. I had to work to turn from the teacher to the consultant, to be aware of others' needs and to listen enough. That's a constant work for me because my planets are, I'm mostly rising. But the descendant is really aware of what's coming in, the reaction, how one responds to one and to other people and other situations. But often, rarely has the time to project and say what they really wanted to say. Two ways of coming out of your subjective being and going back into your, someone teases you out above the horizon, you're going to take it personally, it's down into the personal subjective world. You project something up, you get a reaction, and you either feel good about it or feel bad about it. That's already coming down into your subjective world. You go to sleep and you have to live with it. It affects your inner depth. So when we put these two sides together, okay, I'm just looking at these big drawings. This was done in 2006. That doesn't seem so long ago, but it's still 13 years ago. Wow. Okay. Never mind older memories. Okay. My moon in Cancer is a little indulging at the moment. Okay. Here we have on the inner circle, we have the MC and the IC, the rising half and the setting half. And then we have the above half and the below half on the outer circle. The two circles again looks a little confusing looking at it, but it really is very lucid in explaining what's happening. On this point, it shows the ascendant, the descendant, the midheaven, the IC inside. These are 4 points, the cross of light, the 4 angles. It's like the crucifix we are crucified in life with. We're drawn and quartered into the 4 directions of life, and we get human experiences that come up and they go. They're happy, they're sad, they're good, they're bad, but they're not permanent. And so we have sorrow. So this affects our heart, which is in the middle of this cross bleeding. And until we develop compassion and sensitivity, and we open up to the higher, more celestial energies. As we wake up to these higher, more celestial energies, we look up at the divine, the celestial light, celestial, up at the heavens, and we have these planetary beings, solar and lunar and planetary beings, these celestial bodies moving in the sky. They're closer and more aligned to the celestial energy than we are stuck on Earth. So in the history of Australia, we've always learned to use these planets as our guides. So people thought of them as gods or as mythological teachers with our psychological complexes, our functions, but we can learn to elevate our nature to aspire to the nature of the gods or the higher beings or these planetary beings. They call them angels and gens or planet. We can tune into these energies, be receptive to this higher light, and they set an example in their movements through the signs of how to elevate our nature rather than just how to use it in the world. This integrity affects our inner, our personal sense of security, the IC, our inner sense of security, and our outer status. It creates a very vast spectrum of factors that are coming in and affecting what's our outer world, what's our inner world like, how much light are we making in the world, how much darkness are we experiencing in the world, how much are we bringing through, how much are we open to. It's not a question of light being, that light's coming down, hitting everybody equally. It's a question of how much we're receptive to, how much we're ready for, how much we're open to, how much we're ready to use in our life, or how much we're blocking out with our own negative attitudes.